During the first free practice sessions for the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix, Ferrari arrived at the 6.174-kilometer Jeddah Corniche Circuit with a good initial setup, a sign of excellent simulator preparation. As previously anticipated, the balance was slightly shifted forward to provide more front-end grip, both because fast corners require a strong front on entry and because at the start of this 2025 Formula One season, the drivers have frequently complained about understeer. In the first free practice session, the Maranello team focused on optimizing stiffness, as two limitations emerged in high-speed sections. The first is direction changes, where the SF25 single-seater is still not as agile as desired. Cars like the McLaren MCL39 or the Red Bull RB21 handle lateral load transfers differently. They are more reactive, which matters a lot in Jeddah. After adjustments, the Italian side found a window in which to make the car work. For the second free practice session, the Ferrari technicians and engineers slightly revised the aerodynamic balance. The Monegasque driver, on his first run with the soft tires, experienced excessive rear-end instability, which did not give him much confidence on corner entry and mid-corner. The 27-year-old driver then requested a -4, meaning the front wing angle was reduced by 4 clicks, an operation which was verified via onboard footage. This shifts the center of pressure and helps stabilize the rear. From a handling perspective, it is better to have some understeer rather than oversteer on entry. It should be noted that the SF25 with this configuration still lacks rotation compared to the McLaren, although the new floor seems to be working better in Saudi Arabia than it did in Bahrain. It remains to be seen how much of a step forward this actually is, a verdict that can only come in the qualifying session and the race. Ferrari team principal Frédéric Vasseur and Charles Leclerc, after all, had differing opinions last weekend in Bahrain. In general, even though they seem to have found a good setup today, with which the SF25 appears to be working, the car remains difficult to fine-tune. This is because the balance between front and rear is very delicate. The transition between understeer and oversteer is extremely narrow. That is what Deputy Team Principal Jerome D'Ambrosio was referring to when he said the operating window was hard to find. Bottoming remains an issue, and today we will need to see if they've been able to lower the SF25 to the design ride height. In Bahrain, just a few millimeters were missing, but those make a difference on the stopwatch in terms of ride height. In Turn 1, they're losing a lot, but it should be an issue that can be addressed with some fine-tuning. For now, telemetry allows us to estimate the ideal gap around 0.2 rather than the 4 to 5 tenths seen on Friday. A gap that could shrink further with improved setup. Another important factor to keep in mind is the rear wings. Today we will see which version the Ferrari engineers choose. The two drivers brought two different rear wing configurations to the track, specifically regarding the trailing edge of the second flap. A minimal variation, but one that could offer a small straight-line speed advantage by reducing drag and improving the efficiency ratio. In terms of top speed, Red Bull leads with 332 km per hour. Ferrari reaches 328 km per hour, thus a deficit of 4 km per hour. At the moment, McLaren appears to be the slowest of the three contenders in terms of top speeds, trailing by 7 km per hour. The Woking car, however, remains the one to beat with the best overall package. It has a very strong front end with lots of grip, using this as the foundation to build the setup and stabilize the rear. No mid-corner instability and very clean laps. The difference compared to Ferrari is made on entry and in direction changes. Yesterday morning, Red Bull had understeer. They changed the setup to seek rotation and better balance the downforce from the floor. The RB21 is still more complex to manage than the Ferrari, even though in Jeddah they seem to have found the right operating point. Compared to the MCL39, it loses ground on corner entry, but regains a good chunk of that on exit due to strong traction. They also gain on every straight. They're not the fastest in the speed trap, but have significantly optimized their top speed, a parameter that will be crucial in the race. Temperatures remain high with 31 degrees Celsius air and 39 degrees Celsius track temperature, but since there are almost no low-speed traction points, the rear performs well thermally. The track isn't rear-limited, so the RB21's issue is less apparent. We took a detailed look at what the telemetry data reveals about the Ferrari SF25 car in comparison to the McLaren MCL39, but let's also focus on the direct comparison between the two drivers of the Maranello team, considering the rather large performance difference on Friday. Is Charles Leclerc saving Ferrari, or is Lewis Hamilton struggling badly? During the second free practice session in Jeddah, Charles Leclerc showed excellent feeling with his Ferrari SF25, setting a time of 1.28.749. His Maranello teammate Lewis Hamilton was further behind, finishing with a time of 1.29.371. A gap of over 0.6, which on such a fast and technical circuit like the Saudi Arabian one, does not go unnoticed. But what really caused this gap? The telemetry data analysis of their best lap time in FP2 helps us better understand what happened on track. Right from the first meters, it is clear that the Monegasque driver takes a more aggressive approach, especially under braking. Lewis Hamilton, on the other hand, brakes slightly earlier at several points on the circuit. This penalizes him in medium-speed corners, where Charles Leclerc is able to carry more speed and set cleaner lines. However, the clearest difference appears on corner exits. The Monegasque gets back on the throttle earlier and more decisively, making the most of the SF25's traction and building a progressive advantage. This impression is confirmed by the Delta time telemetry, which shows how the British driver starts losing tenths already in the middle sector of the lap, not due to visible mistakes, but rather a generally more cautious driving style. It's a loss that builds up meter by meter, a sign that Charles Leclerc simply has more confidence in the car's behavior on the Arabian street circuit. In terms of top speed, the difference is there, though slight. Charles Leclerc manages to reach a few more kilometers per hour on the straights, likely thanks to better corner exits or more effective drag reduction system usage. Even though on the main straight, the Briton beats the Monegasque 332 to 326 kilometers per hour. It is not a matter of Lewis Hamilton making mistakes, but rather of not yet having fully adapted to the track conditions and the Ferrari itself. On a circuit that doesn't forgive hesitation, Charles Leclerc managed to exploit every centimeter with precision, while his Maranello teammate opted for a more controlled approach, perhaps still seeking the right confidence with the SF25 car's balance. It will be interesting to see how the intra-team battle at Ferrari develops over the rest of the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix weekend. If the 7-time Formula One world champion can close the gap to Charles Leclerc already in the final free practice session, or qualifying, we might witness one of the most intriguing teammate duels of the year. For Ferrari, part of yesterday's plan was to let the drivers do as many laps as possible to get to grips with the track and its pitfalls, with the very close walls, limited runoff areas, and a track surface that was constantly evolving the more it got rubbered in. Charles Leclerc completed 22 laps in the second free practice session at the Jeddah circuit, while Lewis Hamilton did 23 for a total of 45.